It's as American as apple pie to think of ourselves as middle class. But do you ever wonder, am I in the upper part of middle class? Am I in the middle? Am I in the lower? Where do I stand? And this is challenging data to get because it varies by state. There's a generally accepted definition of middle class, which is 2/3 to 2 times the median income, but that can change a lot state by state. So recently, CNBC came out with an article that shows where upper middle class starts by state. I thought it was really interesting data. I wanted to share it with you. First, I want to go into what's happened historically over the last 50 years for the middle class. And you can see by this data here in 1971, almost 2/3 of us, 61% of us, were indeed middle class by that definition of 2/3 to 2 times the median income for our country. But that has dropped down to 50% now. And the good news is, if you look on the right-hand side of that curve, people that are upper income, so not upper middle class, but actually upper income, that number's increased quite a bit. It's gone from 14% to 21%. So that's a 50% jump. But unfortunately, there's also the negative side of that. And that is from 1971 to 2021, the lower income percent of adults in America, that unfortunately, that increased to from 25% to almost a third, to 29%. And here you can see the incomes needed and what has changed during that period of time. And you can see that the upper income people, we've heard this in the press, the upper income people are doing quite well, almost a 70% change um, in median income during that period of time, where for middle income, we've increased by 50%, and people in the lower income increased by 45%. So that's one of the reasons for that spread. And then here, if you look at what's happened, at first I want to go in nationwide. What's happened to the median household income? Now, median means half the people are doing better, half the people are doing worse. It's different than average. I think it's a better way to look at this data. And then household income means if there's two people working in a household, it would be both of those people's salary. If there's one person in the household, it'd be that one person's salary. So you can see, first, let's start off in the left-hand column, which are not adjusted for inflation. So you can see since 2019, our salaries have gone from $63,000, a little over $63,000, to 2023, a little over $74,000. But if we look at that adjusted for income, it tells a very different story. 2019, we're at $73,423. Then it jumped up the next year to $78,356. That was the year of the start of the pandemic. And companies were paying more work to get people to come in because there was a labor shortage. Many of us were staying at home. But you can see we've actually gone downhill since then. And on an inflation-adjusted basis, we went from $78,000 in 2020 to $74,000 in 2023. Okay, so that's the national landscape. But now let's look at things by a statewide basis. Again, this article is by CNBC Make It. It's called How Much You Need to Earn to Be Upper Middle Class in Every U.S. State. In nationwide, upper middle class households earn a median income. Remember, this is household income between $117,000 and $150,000. And that's according to analysis by Go Banking Rates, analysis of the 2023 Census Bureau data. And they calculated the middle class range for each state. And then they used the top third of that range to say, these are folks in the upper middle class. And it varies widely. They say that in Maryland, where many high-earning government workers live in affluent suburbs. Now, obviously, a lot has changed this year. Many of those government workers are worried about their jobs. But the household earnings to be an upper middle income was almost $160,000 to a little over $200,000. And then if you look at one of the least expensive states, Mississippi, you can see the range there was 85,423 to a little under $110,000. So, why do we look at 2/3 to 2 times the median income? Why do we say that that's middle class? We have to have some definition, and Pew Research is the one that came up with that, and it passes my sniff test. It seems, that it makes sense. Once you're making 2 times more than the median person, you're probably a high income earner. So let's look at some of these states. I'm gonna scroll through these. I'm gonna share some comments as we go, but you can pause the video when your state comes up. Alabama, very similar to the Mississippi numbers. Alaska, I would expect to be quite high, and it is. It's almost 140,000 to 180,000, and the median household income there is almost $90,000. California, I'm curious to see what this looks like. 150,000 to almost $200,000 with a median household income of almost $100,000. Now, one of the things that's surprising to me, it's not anymore just because I've heard the data so often, but over half of all families, US families that are making $100,000 a year or more don't save a dime. And we have to figure out a way, no matter what we're making, to save as much as we can. And I think it's a good discipline to at least save some. But this data on California shows you, when you live in a high-cost area, you gotta make quite a bit of money to be considered upper middle income. And in places like San Francisco, Los Angeles, now San Diego, uh, it's becoming increasingly difficult for people to save money. Okay, Delaware, you can see that's a big state as well. The lower end of this range to be upper middle class is 130,000 to 165,000 with a median household income of 82,000. I'm curious about Florida. Florida has a median household income of 71,000, and you can see the range there is 110 to 140,000. Hawaii's got to be pretty high up there. Almost the median household income, almost 100,000, with the low end of that 150,000, high end up to 200,000. Let's keep going. Let's see what catches my attention next. Massachusetts, a lot of colleges there, a lot of highly educated people there. The low end of the range is over almost 160,000. It's 157,000 to a little over 200,000. The median household income actually tops 100,000. Let's keep going. New York, the lower end of the limit's 131,000, 170,000, and then the median household income's 85,000. And then let's scroll down here to Utah, where the median household income, this has climbed quite a bit in the last 30 years. I lived there for 25 of those 30 years. The median household income is 92,000, and the range is 140 to $183,500 to be considered the upper middle class in Utah. If you like this video, the YouTube algorithm says this is the next best video of mine for you to watch next. Thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.